everybody, and welcome to our candidates forum today. I do want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank the candidates for taking their time out of their day and coming today to meet with us. This is a very informal forum. It is not a debate, so if you are thinking you're going to be getting a debate, that's not the purpose of this forum. It is to give you an opportunity to meet the candidates running for these positions.
Not mine, but I got
To meet all the candidates, to get to know them a little bit personally and professionally, and to find out why they're running, so that when you go to the polls, you have a picture of that person and you know who you're voting for. A lot of our folks here may have website information which they can give you when they kind of go through, or Facebook, so if you have it, you can refer back to it. I've been asked to do this forum here by a number of our seniors who are not on the internet, and they don't have Facebook, or they don't have those accounts. So this is a great opportunity for them to really get a chance to meet and see folks uphand, firsthand and personal. We are taping today, so this will be available online, I believe, and on TV as well. Yeah. So again, thank you so much for coming. Thank all of the candidates, again, so much for your time. I'm not going to waste any more time, so we're going to get right down to the nitty-gritty. The first thing I'm going to ask each candidate is to tell us who they are, what you're running for, and a little bit about your personal history, a little bit about your professional history. So why don't we start with my right? And I have a microphone, they do not have a microphone. So if you have a loud speaking voice, you can certainly talk without it, but really speak up. That way the microphones can get you on TV. If you need the microphone, it is a limited cord, so I will ask you just to stand up and come over here. And it's probably best if you stand up while you're talking, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, so why don't we start over here?
All right. Let's see. Well, good afternoon. My name is David Wilkerson. I'm running as an incumbent for election to the school board. And about myself, let's see. Well, I'm a newcomer to Pelham. I've been here a little over 25 years. And I feel like I've gotten to know the community fairly well. My background, my mother once told me I couldn't keep a job. I was an officer in the Navy. I served on 2 destroyers. I was an ordained minister of a Baptist church in South Georgia, a couple of them. I moved up here, went back to school, gained some skills in technology, and I've been working in the technology industry since I moved here, like I said, 25 or so years ago. My wife is a native of New England, so some people say, why would somebody move from Georgia, where I grew up, to a place like this? And I got a simple answer for that. She and I got married after my first wife died, and we decided we were going to live somewhere. That makes sense, right? And so I said, well, I would consider living in the Bay Area out near San Francisco. This was a while back. Thought about living in the bluegrass of Kentucky, another beautiful place. Thought about living in Asheville, North Carolina. My brother and my youngest daughter live there. I love that place. Or somewhere in New England. That kind of narrowed it down. Well, we decided somewhere in New England. So then the question was, well, where? And so I started drawing circles. I like some of the stuff down in Boston, like the Red Sox. I'm more of a baseball fan than a football fan, but I don't mind cheering for the Patriots as well. And then as I drew that circle, I looked for something in about 45 minutes to an hour of Boston. And as you know, Pelham kind of shows up inside of that circle. So we looked at several communities. We looked at Atkinson, we looked at Derry, and we looked at Londonderry. And then the realtor said, well, there's a place in Pelham you might want to look at. And so we went and looked at it, and I told my wife on the way to the house, because they told us what the price was, I said, it's going to have a car parked on blocks out in front of the house. It's going to need paint. It's going to be a mess. As it turned out, it was not in bad shape at all. It used to belong to a family called the Padians. Their daughter taught at the high school when we first moved here in the Spanish department, English language department. So we bought that house. We've been there ever since. Once in a while, my wife will say, well, we ought to sell this house because it's too big for us. And I said, when you take me out of the house in a box, you can sell it. I put too much of myself into it, and I don't want to leave any of me behind when I go out the door. So I've been here for a while, and I like it. When I first got to the community, I started hanging out at the Congregational Church, where one of my first and earliest heroes was Herb Currier. And he introduced himself to me, he and Martha Crawford. And very nice people. And when I said that it was nice to be in Pelham, Herb says, if you call it Pelham, you're the horse's patootie. And so ever since then, I've tried to say Pelham. But you have to understand, growing up in Georgia, it's kind of intuitive to say Pelham. You know, it sounds like what you'd say if you grew up in South Georgia. So I thought it was going to be cool and say Pelham, but I've learned differently since. Another one of my heroes is Eleanor Burton. Eleanor has inspired me. That's one of the reasons why I'm on the school board. I thought, well, it's something each of us ought to do if we have the opportunities to do our civic duty. So I do what I do on the board because I think that I have a responsibility to give back to the community that's meant a lot to me. This is my home. I have nowhere else to call home. This is it, and I want it to be the best place it can be. So as a member of the board over the past 7 years, I picked up a 2-year term when one of the board members resigned or didn't remain in office for his last 2 years. And then I ran again at the end of that, so here I am looking for a 3rd term. I think this will be my last one. It's a lot of work to be on the school board. But during that time, we completed construction on the high school, which I think a lot of us are proud of. I think it's a useful building for the education of our students. I care about our kids. I work as a scoutmaster in the community. I spend a lot of time with teenagers and younger boys. I know a number of girls. All of my children, except for my son, are daughters. I've got 3 adult daughters and 1 stepdaughter. My son is 17 in the high school, so I'm invested in the youth. But the other thing is, I'm invested in all of the citizens of the town. We might always agree on everything, but I care about what life is like. I pay tax bills just like you do. I'm never excited when mine goes up. I'm sure a lot of you really are excited. Maybe not in a good way. But I think that it's part of my responsibility to be a good steward of the resources we have, trying to balance the needs of our students with the capabilities of our community. And so as we work through each year on the budget, I think we've done a good job of being transparent. There's nothing hidden in the budget. It's all there for anybody to see and about which anybody can ask questions, and that's something I value. And going forward over the next couple of years, we have a new superintendent. We're going to try to break him in gently and get him used to us, knowing how we do things as a town. And I think that one of the values I bring to the board is the ability to provide that interface, the knowledge of what it's been like in Pelham, at least over the last 25-something years, but also where we think we're going. So to help give him that orientation, we have some questions going on among a lot of parents about what the heck is competency-based education anyway. And the way I see it, it's a good thing, because one of the things that we want a kid to be able to do when they finish school is actually be good for something, to be able to do something, be able to demonstrate not just they have some idea in their head, but they can translate that into some kind of action they can perform. And whether it's learning how to manage their personal finances, which right now I think we're doing a good job of it. You could come over and find out about those programs at the school. But competency-based education is about saying, show me that you can do it, show me you understand what you did, and help someone else understand what it is you're doing as well. Communicate it, demonstrate it, and understand it. That's competency-based education. So we have a lot going on in that area. And there are other initiatives in the schools as well. And I feel that I'm an advocate for each of them. And I'd be happy to answer questions about any of that. I don't know if we're doing questions and answers now or just that's me.
Yeah, so what we will do is after everybody has an opportunity to do what you just did, we're going to allow you guys to do some mingling with folks. And then you guys will be able to come and talk to these folks and ask them the questions one-on-one, rather than in like a big forum, because it would just take too much time, and people maybe have just one pointed question they may want to ask one particular.
So that means I can show everybody my campaign manager when I'm done, right?
You can, yes, go right ahead.
That's my dog. He's my campaign manager. So anyway.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Thank you, Sarah, for putting this together. My name is Steele, and I'm running for the planning board. I've been an alternate on the planning board for about 2 years, and I was brought up to believe that you always listen first before you speak, and just consider myself to be a sponge. And what I mean by that is, over the course of the past couple of years, seeing everyone come in front of the planning board and about their concerns, right? What's important to them? What do we want to make sure we preserve? Concerns like water, traffic, overdevelopment. So these are all things that I've been taking in and understanding each one of your points. I continue to learn. I continue to ask questions. So consider myself someone that is always eager to learn, wants to find out about this community. My wife and I moved here a few years ago. And when we started looking for our home, we looked at a bunch of different places, and when we came to Pelham, we saw this one building, we saw the community, and it was one of those things after we looked at all these houses, and my wife is very specific as far as where she wanted to live and the kind of house that we wanted to have. And we walked into that home for the first time. I'm walking ahead of her, and all of a sudden behind me I hear, "Oh, hon." I'm like, "Oh, we're home. We're home." So we bought that home, and we consider Pelham our forever home. And I told my wife very early on that I wanted to be part of this community. I wanted to find a way to, find out what matters and more about the residents and where we're going. So that's when I came before the board and asked to be an alternate, to be voted on there to learn more about what the concerns are. I will say that one of the other things that's happened during the past couple of years is there's a planning commission forum that happens about once a year over in Nashua. And the first one that I went to took in a lot of what the state of New Hampshire is looking at, what the problems are with other towns, what we need to face, as far as our own community. And one of the things that just dawned on me is that there were a lot of different issues that were going on, and I thought to myself, there's got to be a way that other communities, just like Pelham, they must have gone through this. They must have found those solutions. So I went to the director of the planning commission, and I asked him, I said, is there a committee that meets, once a quarter or once a year or twice a year, where it's just towns that come in and it's knowledge transfer? What problems did you have, and how did you overcome it? So Jay had mentioned that he's like, we don't have that, so let's do that. So a forum was started where communities can now do that. So I'm very glad that I was able to be a voice to start that. We went to the first committee, and there was about 25 people that had showed up. And a lot of transfer did happen, whether it was signage, whether it was traffic, future development, workforce housing, right? So there was a lot of great information went back and forth. So I pride myself in the fact of just raising my hand and speaking up and learning, right, from those pieces. So I ask for your vote. I'm here to take any questions. I do have a site on Facebook. It's Derek Steele for Planning Board, which I know the community has always reached out to me to ask me some concerns, which we've addressed. But again, I hope for your vote, and let me know how I can better support you in what you're looking for this town.
I'm Cindy Kirkpatrick. I live here in town, actually I could have walked here if there wasn't snow on the side of the roads. Live in the mixed zone use, and I'm running for planning board. I've had some interaction with them as an abutter. I found it a very interesting group of individuals, and I wanted to do something to serve my community. I have lived in Pelham since 2007, moved here with my husband, and we've been raising our two boys that are in the Pelham Elementary School. Their ages 7 and 8. We've been very active in sports, and I was just looking for another avenue to get involved in town. My background, I'm an intellectual property paralegal. I mostly work with trademark law. I've been doing that for over 22 years, but I have a very good understanding of reading laws, understanding them. I can I've worked with very diverse groups of people with individual opinions and ideas, and I think I can bring a fresh perspective to the planning board. I don't have any experience because I haven't been on the board yet, but I ask for your vote on the 12th so I can bring my fresh perspective and new ideas. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Lynde. First of all, I grew up in the city. I had 4 boys. It was a tough place. I was able to be the first one in my family to go to college, and I feel I've been blessed to have all that, to have that education, have a good job, and children and grandchildren. To my wife and I have 7 children and 13 grandchildren. Oh, I'm not doing loud enough? Oh, okay, I apologize. Huh?
No, I'm kidding. I said we're at the senior center.
That's why I couldn't hear you. I have the same problem. I moved to Pelham in 1966 with 2 children. When I moved here, coming out of the city, I had a goal to be involved in the town so I could have a voice in making sure a place that my children grew up would be good for them, good education. And from that day to this day, I have served in this community in different capacities. PTA, Cub Scouts, St. Patrick's Men's Club, Selectmen, Representative, Trustee of Trust Funds, Budget Committee. And I love doing it. I love this town. My wife and I, Charlene Takesian, have been very involved in the town, putting things together. And my background is, I'm a veteran. Fortunately, I missed the war, so I'm very grateful for that, although my oldest son didn't. I'm a 3 years active duty with the Army. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for 18 months. A graduate of Northeastern, bachelor's and master's degree in engineering. And I have been a selectman now for 31 years. And I've been blessed to have you support me. Times they didn't, but I had those orders. But I've never given up the town, and the town has never given up on me. And we have, as a member of the board, I'm proud to say that we have got a lot accomplished in this town, dealing with our infrastructure and the needs without effectively increasing taxes. The tax rate over the last 5 years has been relatively flat. As a matter of fact, the tax rate this past year was lower than it was 5 years ago. But it's about the same. And we try to get things done and be fiscally responsible. I am also on the board of directors of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which represents every city and town in New Hampshire except one, and they work to make sure that we are protected from the machinations up in Concord, where they pass legislation and pass the cost down to us. And we try to make sure that doesn't happen. I like serving the town. And so I ask you to support for another term. I will gladly answer any questions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
How you doing? My name is William Jakubec. My wife and I moved here in 2015, so we haven't been here quite as long. I grew up in a town called Raynham, Massachusetts. I don't know if anyone knows where it is. It's almost identical to this town. So when we started looking, jumping around. I received a job in Andover at the Greater Lawrence Technical School in 2010 as their technical director, where I really started learning a lot about schools. So I was commuting from the South Shore of Massachusetts through Boston to Andover every day, and it started to take its toll. And I loved the job, and I didn't want to. So my wife agreed that we would move. So when we looked around, we found Pelham and didn't look at any other towns. It reminded me too much of Raynham, where I grew up. It's just a great small little town feel. The people were friendly as soon as we got here. It's been a great experience. So and we're not leaving. The reason why I wanted to join the school board is I've worked for Greater Lawrence Technical School, which was a level 3 school, which means they were underperforming. Over my tenure there, since we've brought it to a level 1 school. So I've seen how to do it. I know we always talk about how great our school is and where we're going. We do have a good school system, but it's not great. It is also underperforming. When you go to the state DOE site and you get performance data, right now our 11th graders are 66% proficient in reading and 35% proficient in math. That's 1 year away from graduation. Those are not great number. Wyndham, right next door, town kind of like ours, 88% and 75%. So we are underperforming compared to them. Even Salem, who has a higher free and reduced lunch rate than us and a higher first-time English learning rate than us, outperforms us. So we need to definitely improve. Now, part of that improvement is definitely going to come from that warrant Article 2, where we're going to increase the teacher pay. The teachers have been underpaid. I actually don't think the warrant went far enough to close in that gap for teachers. But it's going to take more than just that. It's going to take professional development. It's going to take clear and concise transparency between teachers and administrators. It's going to take a better evaluation system to help not be punitive to teachers, but help lift teachers and get them to be better teachers to close that gap. And my other point, I know we're very proud about the school building and things. One of the reasons why I wanted to run. My wife taught for 1 year in Pelham. She's now in Wyndham because they couldn't offer her a full-time position. But she taught at the high school. She was there the first day that school opened. And $22 million later, the day that school opened, it was short classrooms. It's very hard to get money from the state. I don't know how we're going to get money from the state. Not only was it short classrooms, but we are constantly building up, as you can see on Sherburne, a lot more developments. That's a lot more kids coming in. So if we're short classrooms then, how are we going to get to this next level with all these new students coming in? So that's why I want to be on the school board to help look at things like that, try to be proactive before stuff like that happens, and to help lift teachers and help the superintendent lift teachers to close that performance gap. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Bilapka. I've been in town since 2003. I'm an alternate on a planning board for the last 2 years. I was asked by an elected member to get involved, and I have a construction background for about 35 years in the commercial end. And once I got involved, looking at everything that I figured that I knew as far as construction goes, it goes a little beyond reading drawings. I mean, we sit there and we have people come in front of us constantly talking about how their wells are going dry. My biggest issue in the town as far as the planning board goes, we need to find a solution for the water problem that's occurring in many areas in town. Community wells, we're starting to get a few of the developers that are getting community wells, which is a good thing. But you hear it over and over again that people that are buying these very expensive homes are having to go to the laundromat, which is, I mean, I can't fathom the fact that I come from Massachusetts originally, from Methuen, over the border. You never had to worry about wells and septics when I grew up. Up here, it's a big issue with the water. And I'd appreciate your vote.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Sarah, for the invitation here today. My name is Troy Bressette, and I'm running for school board. And I'm going to start off with a little confession. This is very much outside of my comfort zone. But I point to my little guy, Chase, who just turned 8 years old. He's in the 2nd grade at the elementary school. And I just would say I can't, in good faith, push him to go outside of his comfort zone unless I'm willing to do the same exact thing. So I'm here to share a little bit about my background. My wife and I moved up with our newborn baby right out of the hospital. We picked Pelham, got the house ready for the few months leading up to his birth, and have been here ever since because we're not big city folk. We're small rural town folk from Central Vermont and upstate New York, and this is getting back to the roots that both my wife and I were familiar with. I've been with the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, for the last 15 years. And we have another Northeastern graduate, Hal. I'm going to steal your thunder, Kevin. Another Northeastern, a lot of Huskies here today, including my wife and me. So very fortunate to have had the opportunity to live in Boston, but it just wasn't the environment that we wanted to raise children in. This is what we were looking for. Back to the FDIC, I got hooked up with them through the wonderful co-op program at Northeastern, and I was very fortunate from day one. I said, I'm going to make a career out of that. And I've dedicated my career in public service to consumer protection. And that's a lot of the way that I would look at my run for school board. If you were to elect me, how I go about conducting myself in that capacity is with a consumer protection focus. Our children's futures, ensuring academic achievement. But number one, whether or not I'm elected to school board, my top priority is school warrant article number 2, that 5-year collective bargaining agreement. That is so important to get Pelham where we need to be, making sure our teachers are compensated at a rate that is on par with surrounding communities. We can't continue to be this training ground. There's a huge investment, a huge cost associated with training and development, the mentoring that our more senior teachers offer for our teachers throughout the district. And just to have them jump to another town that's paying more, we need to incentivize them to stay here for our students, for us, and for the entire Pelham community. There are a few other things percolating. We need to make sure that the memorial school gets updated, air quality issues, space constraint issues. We want to make sure that that's being dealt with proactively. Technology looks good. We've got an administration that's on top of developing our students and preparing them for the 21st century. I've been really impressed with what I've read up on and seen firsthand with the emphasis on technology. It also mentioned, just in way of background, I've always been dedicated to community service and volunteerism. It was ingrained in me early on. It's a value that I want to impart on my son, and that's the primary reason that I'm running for school board, because that's just another way that I can give back to the community of Pelham. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Cody. I'm a candidate for Selectmen. My wife and I moved here, actually I'm probably the freshest face. I moved here 18 months ago, so I know nobody. So I figured the best way to meet people would be to run for the glorious position of Selectman, and here I am. I have 2 kids in the school system. One is in 1st grade and one's in 4th grade. I have a small tree service, so if you don't think I'm cut out for Selectman, I pretty much stare death in the face every day. So it's not that bad. It's not that bad. There's not much to say. I'm here to be an ear for everybody. I want to be able to be that person that can really listen to what you have to say and really let you understand that I'm going to work towards your problem. I don't know everything, but I definitely know how to do the research and to look for solutions to problems. And that's what I'm going to bring to the town. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Joe Passamonte, and I'm running for Selectman. I've lived here in Pelham just over 16 years. I have 4 kids that 3 of them went through the high school, and 1 is in his last year of high school now. I'm running for Selectman because sitting on the planning board for the past 8 years, I've gained a lot of knowledge, and I want to bring new perspective to the town through the Selectman's position. Thank you.
I guess you saved the best for last. I'm Patty Culbert, and I've had a stroke, so if I stumble on my words, forgive me. I've been a state rep for two times. I've been on a planning board for 30 years. I've been I'm a college graduate, and I've been in the service during Vietnam for 2 times. I want to bring this town to a proper that's not the wrong word. I just stumbled. I have aphasia, so you forgive me. I'd like to stay on the planning board because I have work to do. God gave me the chance to recover from the stroke. I had a hemorrhagic stroke, and I don't know why He gave it to me. I believe it's for planning, and that's all I've got. That's all I can say. Okay? If you have any questions, see me.
Well, I'm very impressed with all of our candidates. Mostly what I've heard from everyone is the passion to bring their love of Pelham to their position, and to bring it to all of you guys by their work that they're doing through their community service. I commend all of you for running for these positions. It is a tremendous amount of time and energy that these folks put in to these positions. I know I work with the Selectmen regularly, even the board of planning board I work with a lot, not as much with the school board, but it's important that we have people who are passionate and want to be in these positions. So thank you so much for your time. I am going to allow our candidates to get up and people to get up, and then you guys come and talk to them. They're going to be here. We're here until 2 o'clock. I don't know if any of our candidates first, do any of you have to leave early before 2? No? So they'll be available for you to come and chit-chat with them, mingle around. Please stay, ask questions of them. Did you have something else to add? Yes.
I've been a resident of town for 35 years, so if that means anything.
And it's neat too, because we have some folks that have been here a long time, and then we have some newcomers, which really can give you a different perspective. So I mean, I think you need to take that all into account when you're voting. So I think that's very important to see. Yes.
I think one question that a lot of the people in the audience have in mind: how do you expect to keep the tax rate as Hal said, at an easy level?
So yeah, so that I mean, I think that is really more of a direct question. It's hard for
they all should keep that.
They should. I agree. And that's I think Derek. Is your name Derek? I think you mentioned that looking at I think they are cognizant of keeping that fiscal responsibility along with those ideals that they see. At least that's kind of what I kind of got from the folks. But specifically, if you all have specific questions that you may want to ask each of the candidates, specific to their board, whether it be the school board, how would you do that? You'll have that opportunity to kind of do that one-on-one with them. Did any of the candidates have anything else they wanted to add to make sure that people knew or before? Yeah.
I'd like to answer a question.
Okay, sure.
Right. Charlotte, it's a good question, and it's a question we certainly all pondered. Fortunately, we have a good working relationship between the selectmen and the school board, so we talk to each other. And we try to make sure when we put something on the ballot, we're not going to overwhelm the town. And the town is now probably, with this year's ballot, taking care of all of the big ticket items we have. The last thing we need to do is, right now, is we asking for money to take care of the Abbott Bridge problem, so we don't lose that bridge. And we got these road programs, and then the highway grants. When we're done, that's pretty much it. the school eventually is going to come to us for something for Memorial School. What we have, and the thing that's interesting, when the high school was built, there's a couple comments on that. It was for $22 million. When it hit the tax rate, full blunt, the taxes went up 26 cents. That was amazing, don't you think? And what's happening is the school board is doing a great job, and the school is managing their money. They turn in revenue that helps offset, just as we do. And we have money set aside in our fund balance that we can use as a shock absorber. So, depending on how the town develops and what other needs, I think we'll stay in this track for a few more years, but I can't guarantee it. But I think we are cognizant, and we certainly work towards that end.
I'd like to mention something. From the school perspective, there is a lot of grant money out there that I don't think we're really going after, that we really need to go after, so that we can increase how much we're spending at the schools without increasing the tax base. Because I looked at the budget and saw how much they were bringing in, and I know how much we bring in at my school over there, and there's a big difference. And so there is a ton of money in grants that you can do to help lift the schools up without hitting the tax base.
Anybody else before we break for? No? Again, I want to thank all of our candidates. I want to thank everyone in our audience today for coming out and learning about all of these wonderful folks. And hopefully you'll have a chance to do some one-on-one with them. So for now, happy voting. Don't forget to go out and vote Tuesday.